For this exercise, it is about the session is basically meant for using the half pitch. So if you look at this 18 and then this being 18, you basically use this small. And you need some cones as well and balls, of course, and then the players. Now, this session is about improving the technique that one players used to cross the ball, and they could either wipe it in or use the back post or cut back or play floated passes, but on emphasis of perfecting the subline line so that the teammates they give the ball to the teammates that have the best opportunity to score. Uh, it helps creating awareness and understanding between the teammates and the different players so that they basically deliver the best opportunity and chances, and also improving delivery as well, like I earlier said. This session is really, it needs some time, to be honest, and it is basically best used in your pre-season when the weather is not very cold, and of course at times you may use it if you want to have sessions where you want to improve delivery, so that you can if you realize, like in the different games you've been having several opportunities to use your width to land the ball into scoring opportunities, and the players are literally delivering as expected. So the first part is to play 2v0. That means two attackers without anyone defending against them. As you see the setup, this is a 40 by 36 yard area, and the rules are pretty simple. The two attackers here will begin with passing to each other. So for example, if this is the man with the ball, he will first start the option of passing to either this attacker, and then once of course he does that, he moves, then this attacker, since we have these wide players, so you could either use your left back or right back, left wing back or right wing back, left winger or right wingers into these two positions. And basically then once they interchange the passes, then these two have the option of either passing to this man or this man, and once this man receives the ball, they should have been in position already to create the scoring chances, so movement has to be in sync. It is pretty important to note that the player who receives this ball has two touches. So the first touch is control, and then the second is hitting the ball either far post, and then this player has to score with either one touch or two touches, depending on their level. Once that is done, then these two will start the same thing. So that means these other guys go behind them. Then they will go through the same process again until when the ball comes back this side, and then it is continuous that way. It is important that you also focus on the timing and making the runs, so that they make proper runs, and then so the wide man can decide on the type of cross that they are supposed to deliver. Here we now move into 2v1 to make it more interesting. We then introduce another player. Let's try to use red to make it visible enough. So we introduce an extra player here, and this extra player is basically to defend once the ball is in this area. So for example, if these two had moved and this player as well has moved. So if the defender stays on the 6 and this is the guy with the ball, then he knows that the only option is to play the back post to this one as an option or alternative. So same thing happens once the ball then moves the other side with new players. The defender will always move in to defend so that he can mark one of the players not to receive the ball. The defender doesn't defend in this process, but always, like for example, once this is done, then the defender has to drop and wait and then decide which player they are going to mark, and then still same opportunity. So if they moved again and then the defender decides to mark this one, then we have this near post ball where the striker is either given the option of playing it this side or turning and then shooting, depending on how creative your players are supposed to be. So that is the 2v1. And then if we want to make it a little bit more interesting as well, we can then add extra players. So the attackers then become more. So we then introduce an extra defender as well. So we can give this guy a 4 or a 6. And this is an extra defender to put in more. Now we are approaching into a more and more, we are progressing into introducing a second defender. So this player is asked to mark one of the attackers and leaving the other 3. And then when we move into the 3 versus 2, this makes it more complicated, because that means that the player that was moving alongside them, for example, if this is the guy with the ball, then we introduce the other player to move inside so that it is 3 versus 2 in that sense. So then this guy knows who is the best person to deliver the ball to. And in this case, man has an option to either score, or even the fact that if this other striker is peeled off, they can do that square ball if this goalkeeper had moved here, and then they can have better scoring opportunities. The same session continues until when you feel like the people crossing the ball and the people attacking have mastered that pattern and coordination, in sense of like tactically the players are now aware on who they should pick out, who is unmarked, so that is the main focus. It is also passing the ball in order to create goal scoring opportunities, especially technically when the ball lands into the box. And then looking at the selection of kind of crosses. So it is always also important to have different variations. For example, if there's good coordination and movement from the strikers, this striker would try to approach so that in-swinger finds him and then they can dash in. So he's either pulling this defender, or if the defender is unaware, and in real game situations you've realized that that is very possible. So as your players continue to improve, you can move this session into a game kind of situations where you will create 8v8 situation, and then basically when it comes to that, you will expand to make it into a half pitch and then create 8v8. But as you do that, the wingers will remain out wide because you want to keep them into a disciplined role of moving up and forth. So for the wingers, whichever team has the ball, they will be supporting and transitioning into attack. so they will remain out wide, so they're more like the supporting guys. And then if we have 8 players, then we shall move into this kind of play. 1 2 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8. Then the other team can move this guy as a winger and maybe change their color, so it's pretty to understand. So these are the supporting team, and then the defending team will also have 8 players. We can have a goalkeeper, and then this kind of 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8. Depending on how your team plays, you can decide to line up in whatever way you want. And then you have up top the 2 guys, and then this probably the 2 midfielders. If usually you're used to 4-3-3, you can also do that, depending on how you want your players to play. So when this black team has the ball, basically these guys fall into support and play along the line. If the red guys win the ball, it should be the same thing. They can use the players out wide to support them, but try to keep it compact. You can also decide to play with lesser players. It will all depend on how many players you have that come for your training. You can also do this. So it is, but these players cannot go out, and these players cannot come in. So it is just basically to help them keep the discipline of moving up and down. So in real game situations, then you will realize that if these are your wingers, then they get used to going up and down, up when they're attacking and back when they need to defend, especially for teams that play with out wide players, either as wingers or wing backs or left back and right back. So basically, that is a very good session that focuses on assisted crossing, especially in the final third. And it will also help teams to realize that they can play in between the middle and then later open spaces and then attackers joining in to create goal scoring opportunities. I hope this can help your team.